Hi, everyone. Yeah, great to see this audience here. And this is one of our largest Zoholics we've done. We used to like to do small events in multiple cities, but that got pretty hard to manage. It's great to see the audience here today. Thank you for coming and braving the heat and being here. You know, most of us came from Austin, where they have an extreme heat advisory today. I didn't think we'd be coming to Houston to escape the heat. Yeah. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about the business reality of AI. AI is on everybody's mind, and the next 2 days we're going to be hearing a lot of AI in our products. There's even a dedicated AI track. But today my goal was to, talk about the business impact and the reality of it. So before I get into that, most of you who've been to Zoholics are used to hearing from Sridhar Vembu, our chief scientist and resident philosopher. So he has some exciting things he's working on that he wants to share with you. So he couldn't be here in person, unfortunately, but he wanted to, dial in and share some things with you. So he's online, ready to go.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks for the introduction. And I apologize for not being there in person. I've been working extremely hard on some new technology that I'd be happy to share to all at least some of the glimpse into this. And Tony talks about the business reality of AI. And one of that reality, it formed this last week where, you heard the trend of companies laying off customer service agents and hiring AI to do the job. Well, some of those companies are pulling back and hiring people back again. I'm happy to tell you that we never fell for that one. We actually, even though we also have agents, but we do believe that our customers deserve to talk to a human being, not to a bot. And a bot can help our agent do a better job. A bot can maybe answer some basic questions, like pulling up some documentation and stuff. But you cannot completely rely on bots to do customer service. And we never picked that. We never actually, we do want to put live humans to support you. And we have, in fact, expanded our support team. And just this last week, we heard that now this agent thing is a little bit overhyped, and maybe we shouldn't be pushing it so hard. At least I don't want to mention names, but they're starting to admit to it now. So that I think is similar to something that broader I want to talk about. Where really is AI heading? And in fact, most interestingly, I'm most excited about software development itself. The act of developing software, all of the stuff that we delivered for you that you love to use daily, day to day, that can be much more automated. But I personally believe, and it's not just AI, it's AI plus additional technologies, crucial technologies we need. That is what is going to deliver this whole productivity revolution. And even take this word agent, agentic systems. What do they mean? So your AI is producing some kind of structured information or code, and that is now performing some actions for you. And those actions could be maybe answer a support question automatically or whatever, right? Or buy a ticket, make a restaurant reservation, any of those things. It's performing action in the real world. In effect, it is code that's running on your behalf. You may not realize it's code, but it is actually code. It is some kind of software that's running. The software may have come from an AI, but it's still software that's affecting your computer. For example, it may have to submit your credit card information or whatever. So you want that system to be absolutely 200% trustworthy. You don't want that to be easily hackable, all of those. Well, today's purely LLM technology alone cannot make those guarantees. It can output some code that can run, maybe. Most of the time it can run, but there are no guarantees about the code, what it does. And it can do some things that we don't want it to do. And particularly if it's outputting thousands of lines of code, we don't have any kind of guarantee. So who provides a guarantee? That's one critical question. Turns out the latest research is you combine this AI system with what is known as traditional compilers, verification systems. Those are well-studied areas. There's a lot more research going into it. You put them together, and then you have a much better system. And as you may have guessed, I am actually working on those areas right now. How do you ensure that the actions you perform from AI are verifiably correct? And I'm happy to report that we are making rapid strides in this. We actually have excellent stuff in our labs running now. So that's one area that I'm personally working on. I'm working flat out, weekends all the time now. I'm working harder now than I ever worked before. And also now I'm chief scientist, so I bear responsibility for all this technology now. That's the first one. The second one I want to talk about in terms of the software landscape, there's one thing crucial that is missed in the conversation about LLMs. When you put your business data and train an LLM with your data, your training information is diffused over all of those weights. It's sort of taking a tub of salt and immersing it in a huge lake. Where did the salt go? Well, it went everywhere. It's all over the lake. It's not in any one place, right? It's diffused all over the lake. Exactly the same way, your business data that train those 50 billion, 100 billion, 200 billion, 500 billion weights, which are just numbers. So there's 500 billion numbers are somehow encoding your information, but you don't know which part is encoding your particular specific information. And what it means is you cannot actually delete it. Deleting means all of those 500 billion have to be essentially trained from scratch again, because you can never be guaranteed that that information you wanted gone or updated is actually updated or gone. So an LLM is not a classical database. It's very different. It appears like a database because you're pulling information from it with some intelligence combined, some reasoning combined, but it's not like a traditional database. So which means that you have to augment traditional databases with AI. So I told you two levels of augmentation, one at the database level, and the other I mentioned at the code that's coming out. So these are technologies that actually we are working very hard on how to get these right. And it turns out our Zia search we have, that's an excellent way to augment the LLM. That's a vector database, and we are doing that to augment your prompt. This is what they call the RAG systems, RAG, the retrieval augmented generation, they call it. So we're using that heavily, and I think Raju will demonstrate some of the apps we have built on it. So that's one level where the database stays our traditional databases. We build a layer to retrieve and give that information to AI. What is interesting is we always had those systems. In exactly the same way, we have been working on these verification systems for a variety of needs. But I am of the opinion that software programming productivity can be massively improved. Perhaps a 10-fold jump. Could even be a 100-fold jump. And this is an opinion I had even before the advent of LLMs. And now I even more strongly believe that that will happen. And we have actually some very important technologies in that area. That's what we are working on. That's all I had to say today. And I want to give it back to Tony. Tony has a nice presentation ready for you. Thank you very much. I'll stay on and I'll be happy to take some questions after Tony's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sridhar. we're definitely working on a lot of technology, and AI is on most people's minds. So today I wanted to step back a little bit and give you some perspective on what AI means for business and the way Zoho is looking at AI and our strategic view of it and our goal of investing in AI to help our customers leverage AI to the fullest. So this was the title of a recent keynote that Sridhar gave. And, the story of last year was a little different than it is today. Last year, the hype around AI and how it's going to take away our jobs, it's not surprising that vendors would hype AI, but media got into it in a big way. So reading the stories, you'd think that AI is going to take away most jobs. And some of us were looking forward to sitting at home collecting UBI. But that AI revolution has been postponed, if not, but it's certainly not canceled in our view. But some of the hype around it certainly got ahead of reality. For those of you who are following, Klarna was one of the early companies. We got to appreciate these companies that are willing to dive in and test and be pioneers in testing the waters. But last year they had planned to replace their workforce. And I saw this headline yesterday saying that they're starting to hire people back. So they're certainly on the bleeding edge of this, giving us insight into how well this works. Thinking back, when you look at what really happened, the consumer has been using AI very heavily. We could easily see the kind of impact AI has. And, for even a business user, the usage of AI has been a boost to, creating content, to communicating, to understanding a lot of summarizing things and so on. A lot of these things are already in our products. And some of you are using it quite heavily now. I think the growth has been pretty high. I was hearing that, we crossed 20 billion API requests a month for AI, and that's growing quite fast. So while the hype around AI, has been a little over the top, we do believe that AI is going to impact everything. I can't think of any business or function that won't be impacted by AI in the future. How much is to be seen? So we have to hold these two opposing ideas in our head that AI is overhyped, and it's really important for business to be thinking about AI and how it's going to change your business. So I think it's F. Scott Fitzgerald who wrote that the test of a first-rate intelligence is holding two opposing ideas in your head and being able to function. I don't think that will be a problem for this group. We have a very intelligent group here. These are Zoho customers. So I want to talk a little bit about consumer AI versus business AI. When I talk about consumer AI, I'm talking even about the business user using consumerist tools. The adoption there has been enormous. I think you may have read that ChatGPT was dramatically higher in terms of the growth, than the previous product, at the rate of growth that it had in the first year or two. So the amount of usage we've seen with ChatGPT has been, and the similar LLMs has been dramatic. Sometimes you think that it's getting way overused. Things like students using LLMs to do their work and so on, you have to wonder, maybe we've gone too far. The the level of investment going into AI in terms of data centers and GPUs and the level of energy and water it's consuming. I may have seen a number like 250 billion, which might already be outdated, but the level of energy and power required is pretty crazy. So when you think about it, I sometimes tell people, if you have a chance to use your own brain versus using AI to do some simple tasks, I wish you'll use your own brain because you're saving all that much energy and water. So you're doing something for the planet by using your own brain. You also have to think about the future where, what happens if we stop using our own brains? We're dealing with a dystopian future like you see in movies like Wall-E and Idiocracy. So we definitely want to be, in the mode where people are not relying too much on AI. And when you receive emails and so on, and it's written by AI, you lose interest in reading them. So the need for people to use AI in the right way is definitely part of it. But for business, there are a number of other aspects that come in. Now, I'm not talking about the user using it like a consumer and using the tools. Aside from avoiding sharing proprietary information, the rest of it is really a useful tool that people are using on a day-to-day basis. But when it comes to a business, there are a number of other considerations that come in. The security of a data, the privacy of yours and your customers' data is clearly a big element of it, right? When we look at authorization, that's another big piece that you have to worry about. Who gets to see data in an organization? So one of the nice consumer tools was a Google product called Notebook LM, where you can throw in all your data and get some really nice, you can ask it questions and it'll do a lot for you. One of the features that many of you know is you can create podcasts of that information in any form you want. So all that is good from a consumer or very small business point of view. But once you get past any reasonable size business, you have to worry about who gets to see data within an organization. So getting the authorization right, getting the data processing right within a business is a clear challenge that we have to worry about. So when we look at all of the business aspects, compliance, and so on, we can't rush in and use these LLMs at will. The economics is the other big piece I want to talk about. The initial consumer use cases, it feels like somehow this is the consumer use case is being subsidized by venture capital or something. The costs are relatively low. But once a business starts to use the AI very heavily, costs start to matter. Using a frontier LLM for every one of your business needs, the costs are going to add up pretty quickly. So it's important to be thinking about how do we make the economics work for businesses once they start using these technologies very heavily. Because we do think that heavy use is the future. People are going to be using it for many things on a daily basis. And for Zoho, getting the economics right has always been a priority. Let's talk a little bit about the state of AI technology. No, you don't need new glasses. This was my attempt to try to use AI to talk about some of the key technologies that we are looking at with AI. I used one of the leading tools for generating this kind of thing. I don't want to name names because this was just my first attempt, very quick attempt. And when I saw this, I thought I'll just use it for my presentation. If you go back to the history of LLMs, we started with, pre-trained LLMs, which have steadily been getting better. And instruction tuning that really opened it up with ChatGPT. And we've been very happy to see open source models emerge. It was definitely a big boon when you start looking at the cost of these things. I mean, the word on the street is that the pre-trained LLM, the curve is leveling off. So you're starting to see, less and less gains. I guess we're running out of data to throw at it, original data to throw at it. And there are a couple of things that have been really improving the overall LLM technology. One is reasoning models. And they're trying things with synthetic data as well. So we may not be, leveling off as fast. But you do worry about synthetic data and how well that's going to work. When we, look at some of the recent advances, I'll talk more about that in a moment, with smaller distilled models and so on, we're starting to see a lot of choices emerge. And this is going to really allow us to apply the technology in the ways that we want and offer the economics that I mentioned that are needed for heavy use of this technology. Looking more closely at this picture, it looks like the AI is telling us, trying to tell us what comes after reasoning LLMs. I just wish I could read that. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about open source LLMs because this is important to our, offering the economics I mentioned. We've all heard of DeepSeek, and it dropped a few months ago and gave us really cost reduction that has been a boon to many of us. The distilled models I mentioned, something like Quen has been a real boost to, using smarter models and getting very good results, right? So much so that now even people like Microsoft and Google, and I even heard this talk of OpenAI releasing open source models. So open source is going to be a key enabler for us. At Zoho, we certainly rushed into investing in GPUs and people to build LLMs, and certainly couldn't keep up with the market. We continue to do that. We are investing in our own LLMs and looking for where we can bring some advantage to it with the training data and all the things that we do. But this, abundance of open source models of different varying sizes is going to really enable us to provide the technology in a more economical way. So the key would be to use the right tool for the job, right? There are certain cases where using the frontier models is something you'd want to do. So if you're looking at trying to understand broad user intent in broad domains, if you're trying to distill vast amounts of world knowledge into specification, all of those require the more knowledge you have, the better. There are lots of more focused problems where a small LLM can do the job quite well. So the technology right now is still evolving. It's not the ground is shifting as we speak, and there's a lot of focus models trained on specific data. So our labs, we're trying a lot of this. We're doing many experiments with data trying to bring efficiency in the kinds of solutions you're offering. And so this is going to be a big piece of getting this right. For the business use cases, it's not just the application side. Even the technology is now undergoing a lot of refinement, a lot of, improvement, as well as bringing efficiency to it. And that's an area we're investing quite heavily in. So beyond the LLM, there's a lot of pieces that need to be done, right? And I'm still focused on the technology piece of this. I'll come to the business, but it's important to understand the pieces that go into getting AI right. So the LLMs keep improving, costs coming down. They're getting good at focused problems, and we try to, continually test different things. It's a interesting situation where every day there's some new announcement, new technology. Our labs team doesn't get any sleep, I think, just trying to try these things out. But where it pays off for a business is, all the scaffolding tech you build around it. So the starting point for any business is to get the digital maturity, right? So you have to get your business information, both being collected and digitized and available, but also kept current, kept up to date. As Sridhar mentioned, when it comes to the LLM, you're not using this data for training, because this is data that's going to change and evolve. So early on, we were thinking we will use, fine-tuning and train the LLM with that data. But clearly that doesn't make sense for business data. That's going to be something that's going to be evolving. And these RAG and other approaches are needed. But for a business, what it means is you have to get your information together, your information collected, and a good system for keeping it up to date. So the knowledge bases, the databases is the other big piece, right? And, your business data, what should be available to the LLM, all that is part of it, collecting it in one place or in a set of repositories that are available to the AI. So the good thing about Zoho is we offer a lot of products. We're bringing the data together. So if you use something like Zoho One, a lot of that data is being collected. And I'll talk later about some of the things we're doing to help your business use that AI. You use that data for AI. So the knowledge bases, the databases, and Sridhar mentioned the compilers. So that's kind of the way we are thinking about it. Not everybody talks about it this way. But you often use the LLM where you feed it the prompt and you use it as the engine to generate the specification of what you want to do. And because of hallucination and other issues, you have to be able to verify that data and, convert it to something that can be used in our downstream systems. So that in some sense is what a compiler is. And so we think of it as compiler technology. And while we've built a lot of other pieces, we're really investing heavily in that technology to make it as robust as possible. The better your specification and verification and all of that in that chain, the better your AI is going to perform. It's easier to verify. It's easier to make sure that the system, doesn't run amok. I mean, we've seen a lot of these tools that generate code, generate UI. One of the challenges with those systems is, what do you do after you do it the first time? If you ask the AI to generate an updated version, it does something completely different. Right? So trying to keep it consistent, trying to keep it from generating unmaintainable slop is one of the challenges with AI. So being able to have it generate a well-formed specification that can be verified, and then a compiler that takes it and converts it to the systems and backend platforms that you need is really the key compiler piece of technology that's needed. In addition to that, of course, you have to build the UIs and the workflow and all of the other pieces that are needed to complete your AI application. So our teams have built many of these things already. So I don't want to say this is all coming, but these are still very early versions of this. Right? You have to see this as technology that is very much evolving. Some of the pioneers have gone in and burnt their fingers. Some of them have gone in and seen results. You're certainly not late to AI if you start now. You have to see it as the technology is just getting to a point of usability where most of us can start using it more and more. And this, I'm now talking about the business use case. And so I do think, though, it's important to start thinking about it. I'll talk about how we should think about it. So for business today, AI is definitely on many people's minds, as I said. And, the first question to ask yourself is, how is your business going to change because of AI? Right? That's first order, meaning the core of your business. How is your customer experience? How is your customer buying? The business going to change because of AI. You can do a lot of things around operational efficiency and improving the tools you provide users. All of that is available to you to invest in. But the first question to ask is, how is AI going to change my business? And depending on the business, some of them have already changed in the way they work. For example, we had, from content providers to other businesses, legal and so on, things have already had impact where AI has come in and changed the dynamic. Some of it is just people, feeling that things are going to change and maybe the hiring. Most executives the last year have been reluctant to go out and hire a lot of employees, thinking that AI is going to change all this, so let me not get caught on the wrong side of hiring too many people. But a few businesses have already seen AI impacting the way the business works. Most cases, it is a case of bringing some efficiency, bringing some improvement in process. But going forward, our view is that a lot of businesses are going to be impacted by AI. And when you look at your own business, you have to be watching for how AI is going to change the business itself. And that's the core that you need to be ensuring you're investing in and trying out things and being able to be competitive in that way. The context, as I call it, this core versus context is an old phrase that's been used from the outsourcing times on to cloud to everything, where you make sure keep the core and outsource the context. I'm not sure I like the context term per se, but you get the idea. When it comes to your core business, that's the first thing you need to be looking at. How is AI going to change it? And then figuring out how to make sure you're investing in that. There are a number of easy wins to be had with AI. Many of these things are already in Zoho products, like summarization or generating templates to what have you. And over the next few days, you'll see a lot of those features mentioned in the talks. The next thing that you probably can look at is decision support. If you look at helping your executives and staff make decisions, using AI, collecting your information, being able to ask questions about your data information is going to really have benefits to your business. So that's a relatively straightforward thing to be investing in. Depending on the size of your business, the investment can be small or large. And our Zoho analytics products already offer you tools to help you with some of this. The next area that is impacting businesses is AI assistance. Right? So once you've collected your information in one place, you're keeping it current, and your data is available to the AI, you can offer employees at different functions tools to really make things, move faster for them. Information at their fingertips, but even better than the previous generation. You don't just search, you ask questions, you get a much better prompt-driven interface to it. The terminology of AI agents versus assistants and so on is still, I think there's some ambiguity around it. But the idea with agents is that they are, supposed to be more autonomous as well as take actions on your behalf. I think at least of AI assistants is something that's, providing information to the employee to do things. But agents are where you expect it to be more autonomous in terms of both the decision making as well as, the actions, which I think the actions piece is largely after a user has accepted at this stage. From the ones I've seen, you do want the user to validate what you're having the agents do. Now, I talked about the hype earlier. If you talk to two people who have been using AI, you'll get two different opinions on how well the technology works and how much is going to happen, how much should be done. So you're going to see a lot of, different experiences of AI based on how well something has worked. And so it's going to be difficult to, sort of count on one person giving you a unbiased view. There's no doubt it's showing amazing promise with many things, but there's also a lot of danger in the way, people have used AI and burnt their fingers. So you want to be thinking in terms of tools that assist your users first, get that working well, before you start thinking about autonomous agents that are doing things on their own. I have no doubt the technology will happen. It's only a matter of time. But definitely agents is another one of those things I think vendors are overhyping at this stage. But your mileage will vary in that some may be using these effectively already, but for most people, it's going to be a matter of time before these things slowly get better. The technology is moving fast at all levels. So, it's a matter of opinion how good it's got and how well it works for your specific use case. And finally, the future promises AI employees, right? And this, I think, is very much at the hype stage. So, I think until we get the other pieces working, I don't think looking at AI employees is going to be very useful. But certainly people are talking about this, and there's even been some interesting experiments where I saw something where somebody created an entire company with AI employees, and it was a disaster. So clearly the technology is not ready, but that is the future that we will have to look at. So when you look at the industry and where AI has had the biggest impact, leaving aside the consumer and business user using the consumerish tools, which obviously has had dramatic impact. I think I read that, a lot of search is now, people are using AI instead. So I saw a survey recently that the number was something like, under 3%. I was a little surprised. Anecdotally, from talking to people, especially younger people, many of them are using the ChatGPT and equivalents instead of search. But the numbers are still lower than I thought, it seems. But when you look at business AI and where the biggest impact appears to be, it is really custom solutions for your business, right? That's where the dramatic impact has been. Your information, your data, process, and business priorities all are in this mix. Certainly, if you're looking at any function in your business, like I said earlier, if it's going to impact your business, you do want to be thinking about it a lot. And certainly that's where the business priority comes in. This is a function we have to automate or improve the throughput or whatever it is you're trying to achieve. So getting that business priority right, or what is it you really need to be doing and investing in that. Because the investment, while the technology is getting cheaper, the investment is a lot around your understanding your business process, collecting the information for your business, all of that, and making it work. There's going to be a lot of trial and error, a lot of experimentation before you can go live with the system. It's not a case of paying a consultant to come in and do things. I mean, there are some easy wins for this, right? There are things like, using AI for your internal processes. Like the first place AI is getting deployed more and more is for your internal operations, because your employees are going to be looking at the results and telling you if it works or not. The last thing you want to do is voice this on customers without feeling that the technology is mature enough. So internal IT, HR, things like help desk, those are areas that have seen the most successes in deployments. Again, those tend to be very custom to your business. You have to look at your operations internally, and then have your employees be the guinea pigs for trying this out. Within Zoho, we have used many such tools. Usage varies, and I've not heard glowing reports from employees on this. The AI is working great, but it's a work in progress, so you have to give it some time. I mean, programmer productivity is where I'd say AI is currently the most heavily used. And certainly for us, our teams are using the tools. It's still early in the cycle of these programmer tools, especially with large code bases and so on. It's, there's definitely a long way to go before they get as productive as they know they're going to be. But, programmer are probably the ones using AI the most within our company. But there's a lot of initiatives internally to keep, pushing the envelope on this. And I think we're ready to deploy some of those systems more widely. So again, to reiterate, you really have to be thinking about what your business priorities are and making sure you're starting that journey of investing in AI to impact your business. I'm sure there's some business out there where AI has nothing, has no business being in, but that's very much the exception in our view. So now let me talk a little bit about how Zoho thinks about AI and what we're doing to invest in it. So Zoho's always been about economic value, right? So we do see the need to make sure that we are investing wisely, investing to offer the best value for our customers. And so while we do think that this is a massive opportunity to improve many aspects from business to, I think we're always looking at the cost of the technology, how well it'll work once people use it heavily, and so on. We have made investments from the, building our own LLMs to optimizing, to instruction tuning, to trying, various ways of optimizing, particularly smaller models, because that's where we think we can, eke out a lot of efficiency. And so, that's been a significant area of investment for us. And certainly when you look at applications, look at use cases, look at how customers, can benefit from AI, we are investing heavily there. And that's where a lot of the manpower or resource is going into. So we have invested in data centers. We have, 16 data centers. You might ask, why are we building our own data centers versus using one of the public clouds? So again, this goes back to the economics. We think we can offer customers a lot more value if you're able to, host these models, optimize the models we're using, and, are able to really bring efficiency across all of our suite. Now we are a, massive user base. We are large enough to really bring the benefits of scale. One of the challenges we have is we can't get the data centers up fast enough. There's a lot of challenges with doing it in different countries, and every country now wants its own data center, so that tends to, create a lot of challenges for our infrastructure teams. But we are committed to investing and scaling that up because we think we can offer customers real value by bringing that efficiency to our model. Investing in models I already talked about. And like I said, the applications piece is where we are the most resource on. Every product team is announcing AI features. You'll see things that are coming. The first order was trying to do the quick things around providing, the consumerish benefits to you. But starting to look at what you're doing with the application and how that can be optimized. I mentioned earlier, the biggest benefit comes when you are doing custom solutions. And so the challenge for us is how do we package some of these things to make it easy for a business to really, get to these benefits. So that's clearly a big area that our teams are working on. So we are providing a platform capabilities that all our applications can use. Then agents is something you'll be hearing more about. And one of the big changes I'll talk about is we are starting to do more on solutions. The Zoho AI, we brand it all under the Zia umbrella. See, we have been relatively light on, the solution business. As a company, we have been trying to create product that our customers can take and use. But as we move up market, we are seeing more and more of a need for a solution orientation. And we have started investing heavily in that. Certainly, the partners are doing a lot of that. But Zoho increasingly is offering a solution to our customers, especially the larger customers. We have an enterprise business solutions team that offers custom solutions to our customers. And then we have smaller teams that focus on the mid-market that also provide custom solutions, along with having partners do that. And that's where the AI, I think, can have significant impact on your business. So if you're thinking about AI solutions for your business, talk to your account managers or reach out to us. We'd be certainly happy to have that conversation with you and see if we can help you implement AI for your business. There's been a number of projects ongoing, things like sales coaching for multiple customers, and then, improving customer engagement, product quality, faster service delivery, and so on. So to conclude, I wanted to say that, business AI is a marathon. You have to see that something, it's not invest once and forget. It is it's going to get embedded into your business. We're going to try and provide you the tools, but thinking about it from your business point of view and understanding how AI is going to impact it is the first step in that process. And we'd be very eager to help you succeed with AI. We are heavily invested in enabling that future, and we see this as an ongoing, progress of AI that your business is going to benefit from. Thank you very much.